As soon as I grasped what had occurred, my heart leapt into my throat, a mix of shock, confusion, and a strange thrill washing over me. It had all started so ordinarily, just a typical day. I was home alone, savoring the rare stillness, and decided to unwind with a bath. I hadn't realized my son's friend, who'd come over earlier, hadn't left yet. It was mid-afternoon, and the house felt calm, or more serene. I filled the tub with warm water and slid in, feeling the day's tension melt away. I closed my eyes, letting myself fully relax as the warmth wrapped around me like a soft blanket, bringing a fleeting sense of peace. But something didn't feel right. A strange sense that someone was watching me. I initially shrugged it off, thinking it was just my imagination. After all, I was alone, or so I thought. Slowly, I opened my eyes and scanned the bathroom. Everything looked as it should. The towels neatly folded, the shampoo bottle on the shelf, steam swirling gently around me. Yet, the feeling persisted, a prickling at the back of my neck, a whisper of unease in the silence of the bathroom. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was nothing, but the sensation lingered, like a shadow on the edge of my vision, a presence I couldn't quite name. And then I saw it, a flicker in the mirror's reflection, a flash of color at the corner of my eye. My breath caught, and my heart began to pound as I slowly turned my head, scanning the bathroom again. There, standing in the doorway, was my son's friend, watching me. His eyes were wide, unblinking, a slight smile tugging at his lips. In that instant, the quietness around me seemed to thicken, the warmth of the bath water suddenly feeling cold against my skin as a shiver ran down my spine. I had been alone, but now I wasn't. I leaned back, trying to recapture the sense of calm, but the feeling wouldn't dissipate. My senses were on high alert. Then I heard the faintest sound, the soft creak of a door. My pulse quickened, and I glanced at the bathroom door, noticing it was slightly ajar. Oh, I could have sworn I'd closed it when I came in. The realization hit me like a wave. I wasn't alone. Someone had been watching me. My mind raced through the possibilities. Was it my son? No, he wasn't home. And then it clicked. His friend. He'd come over earlier, and I hadn't heard him leave. As I pieced it together, my breath hitched. A flood of emotions rushed through me. Embarrassment, irritation, but also something unexpected, a thrill I couldn't ignore. There was something forbidden in the situation, something that made my heart race in a way I hadn't felt in years. I was flustered, but underneath, a strange excitement simmered. The thought of him standing there, observing me. I wondered what he'd seen, what was on his mind. Was he curious, intrigued? My thoughts spun, trying to make sense of it all. What should I do? Confront him? Pretend I hadn't noticed? Daring possibilities began to spin in my mind, each one more enticing than the last. Then a thought occurred to me, one that sent a warm wave through my body. Maybe this wasn't an accident. Maybe it was an opportunity, a chance to break out of the routine and feel something new, something unexpected. The bathwater felt warm again, almost inviting, and I closed my eyes, letting its heat embrace me, my mind swirling with mixed emotions. This was a moment I knew I would soon forget, I couldn't deny the strange exhilaration building within me. I sat in the tub, motionless, for what felt like an eternity, unsure what to do next. Should I confront him? Pretend nothing had happened? My mind was a storm of thoughts. The house had gone eerily quiet, and I wondered if he was still just outside, waiting. The tension was unbearable, yet part of me didn't want it to end. It felt wrong, but that only intensified. Slowly, I rose from the bath, water dripping down my body. I wrapped a towel around myself, took a deep breath, and stared at the door, my heart pounding. I opened it, and there he was, standing at the end of the hallway, eyes wide, caught in the act. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us was thick, charged with an unspoken intensity. I didn't know what to say, and neither did he. He looked embarrassed, but there was something else in his gaze, something that echoed my own feelings. I should have been angry that he had been watching, but instead I felt a strange pull toward him. Instead, I felt electrified, a heady mix of anticipation and danger. My heart hammered in my chest, echoing the unspoken question hanging between us. What now? He took a step toward me, his gaze steady, his presence filling the hallway with an awkward yet intense energy. I felt my own body respond, a warmth spreading through me, a tingling that made my skin prickle. I didn't know what would happen next, but I was certain of one thing. This was a moment I would remember. I stepped out of the bathroom, still clutching the towel around me, and moved closer to him. He didn't step back, didn't say a word. His eyes stayed locked on mine, and I felt the tension between us deepen. The air grew thick with anticipation, as if something was about to happen that neither of us could stop. Before I knew it, I was standing inches away, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from him. School began. School started. The beginning of 8-person Seagram. I could see the struggle in his eyes, a mixture of hesitation and desire. It was a risky line we were crossing, and we both knew it. My heart raced, each beat louder than the one before, and then, in a moment that felt both inevitable and surreal, I leaned in, closing the space between us. His breath hitched, and I caught the surprise in his eyes. But he didn't pull back. Instead, he leaned in too, and suddenly we were lost in a kiss, filled with the passion and weight of everything we had been suppressing. It was electrifying, the kind of kiss that left me breathless and wanting more. My mind screamed that this was wrong, that we shouldn't be doing this, but my body didn't care. In that instant, nothing mattered except the fire between us and the feel of his hands on my waist, pulling me closer. Time seemed to stop as we kissed, caught in the moment. There was something forbidden and intoxicating about it, and I couldn't make myself stop. I knew we were crossing a line, but I didn't care. The thrill was impossible to resist. Finally, we broke apart, both of us breathing hard, our faces flushed. We just stood there for a moment, staring at each other as the reality of what we had done began to settle in. I saw the same confusion in his eyes that I was feeling. What had we just done? I stepped back, my mind racing. This couldn't happen. It was wrong in so many ways. But as I looked at him, I knew that it wasn't over. We'd crossed a line, and there was no going back. I turned and walked down the hall, my heart still pounding. I didn't look back, but I felt his eyes on me, felt the weight of what had just happened lingering in the air. When I reached my room, I shut the door behind me, the sound echoing through the quiet house. Everything felt different now, charged with a new energy, a blend of danger and possibility. The line between right and wrong had blurred, replaced by a confusing swirl of emotion. I stood there, catching my breath and trying to process what had happened. I knew I needed to think about this, to figure out what I was going to do. But in the back of my mind, there was still a spark of excitement, something forbidden that I couldn't quite shake. I realized this was a moment that would change everything. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, my breathing still uneven, my mind a storm of guilt, excitement, and confusion. But one thing was clear. I couldn't stop thinking about him. Over the next few days, that moment replayed in my mind constantly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him standing there, felt the heat of his kiss, the intensity we'd shared. It was wrong, but it was all I could think about. We didn't speak about it. He came over a few more times, and each time we shared awkward glances, but kept silent. The tension between us was almost tangible, and I knew it was only a matter of time before something happened again. And then one day, it did. My son had gone out, leaving us alone in the house. The air was thick with anticipation, both of us aware of what was about to unfold, but neither making the first move. We stood there, frozen, as the silence between us vibrated with unspoken desires. Everything was confused, and for an instant I stopped my heart, filled with a blend of inevitability that I couldn't ignore. I knew this was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. The forbidden nature of our connection was a powerful draw, pulling me to him like a moth to a flame, and I knew that, in that moment, I was ready to give in. At last, he moved towards me, and without a word, we were wrapped in each other's arms again, surrendering to the heat of the moment. This time, there was no hesitation, no second thoughts. We both knew what we wanted, and we weren't going to stop. The kiss was even more intense than before, filled with all the longing we had suppressed. It was reckless, but I didn't care. At that moment, nothing else mattered. The rest of the day passed in a haze of stolen kisses and whispered words. We couldn't keep our hands off each other, finally giving release to the tension that had been building. It was thrilling, the kind of excitement that left us breathless and wanting more. But as the day drew to a close, reality began to creep back in. The stolen moments, the forbidden passion, it all felt like a dream. And as that dream started to fade, I was left with a gnawing sense of unease. The guilt lingered, a constant reminder of how wrong it all was. I knew I couldn't keep this hidden forever, and the thought of the consequences, the hurt I'd cause, weighed heavily on me. Still, the memory of his touch, the intensity in his gaze, lingered. I couldn't deny the pull I felt toward him, even as I knew it was a path I shouldn't take. The line between right and wrong was blurred, and I was lost in the confusing landscape of my own desires. The consequences felt distant, the thrill of the moment far too compelling to resist. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of a dangerous game, a game I might not be able to win. I couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. What were we doing? This was risky, and we both knew it, but as I looked at him, I knew I couldn't stop. There was something between us now, something that wouldn't just fade away, no matter how hard we tried. As the days became weeks, our secret affair continued, each hidden moment more intense than the last. We knew it couldn't last, that sooner or later we would have to stop. But neither of us wanted to face that reality. For now, we were content to live in the moment, to revel in the thrill of the forbidden. Deep down, though, I knew it couldn't go on forever. Eventually, something would have to give. The only question was, what would happen when it did? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more thrilling tales like this one.